Looking for the ultimate cultural experience of 2025? The Zora Outdoor Festival of the Arts is where you need to be. From January 31st to February 2nd, Eatonville, Florida will come alive with incredible live performances from the Levert Experience and the Bar Cave. Immerse yourself in interactive art. Shop from over 80 vendors. Take a journey through history with a new virtual tour app. And enjoy family-friendly STEM activities. Plus, don't miss the unforgettable R&B tribute to the legends, honoring talents such as Whitney Houston, Marvin Gaye, and Luther Vandross. This is more than a festival. It's a celebration of Eatonville's rich cultural heritage. Visit zorafestival.org for tickets.
Hey y'all, it's your girl Sonia from She Say Sports. Make sure to check us out every Friday morning at 9 a.m. on Black College Sports Network, YouTube, and Linktree. And please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube page.
Morehouse College and Tuskegee University men's basketball teams were selected to compete in the 2025 NBA HBCU Classic presented by AT&T. The fourth annual NBA HBCU Classic will be played in the Bay Area as part of NBA All-Star 2025 and will once again celebrate the rich traditions, on-court athleticism, and commitment to excellence of the HBCU community. For tickets, visit nba.com/all-star.
Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. Yeah. Charles, I guess Carlos is going to be joining in shortly. How's everybody been doing?
Oh, everybody is fine. I guess, Carlos will be coming in. So pinch hitting for Carlos Brown until he comes on. The Carlos Brown Show here on the Black College Sports Network. And I'm Charles Edmond, as you can see. Wheeler Brown and Coach Pettaway joining us here. As we look at SWAC basketball, there's a lot in the hopper. You know, SWAC football, a number of teams have released their schedules, signing days coming up on Wednesday. And so there's a lot to talk about here. So I'm gonna pull a Carlos. I'm gonna talk about Southern University. Now that is strange, guys. For me, I want to talk about Southern University first. I can talk about Alcorn, but let's start with Southern University. You know, the Jaguars continuing to roll, both men and women. Southern's men undefeated in conference, and the Lady Jaguars, they won 7 in a row. So let's start there. Coach Pettaway, your thoughts on what you're seeing with the SWAC standings so far, and Southern University, men and women, both getting it done as we approach the midway point of the season.
Right. When you look at on the women's side, we all know that Texas Southern is actually leading the women's side 7-0, but Coach Fuentes got Southern's women, the Jag women, right there at 7-1, and he's doing a great job. And to be honest, that's one of the only teams that I have not seen live. And unfortunately, this Saturday, I was going to let Carlos know this, I won't be available. My former assistant, Sammy Jackson, Carlos, you
heard about Sammy,
the tall guy, and he worked for me for 11 years. He lost his life, and they're going to be burying him next Saturday, and so I'll be at that funeral. But that means I will miss Southern because they're scheduled to come to Huntsville. So I'll miss them, and that's unfortunate. But Coach Fuentes is doing a great job down there at Southern. I figured once they went out to Texas and he was able to get that split on the road, he's just been able to put everything together. And so that's why Southern's women have been doing an outstanding job. And then speaking of the women, Alabama A&M and Jackson State are right there at 6-2. And so there's been some great basketball being played. And when I saw Texas Southern live, their women, they do so many different things, Charles. on the women's side, man. That's a nice team. She's got size, she's got depth, and they can get you from the outside or the inside. I think they just take what Coach Skeeter, they just take what you give them. Whatever you give them on the defensive end, they try to take advantage of it. And when it comes to their offense, and I think she's doing an outstanding job. So I'm looking forward to the stretch. And right now, Jag Nation should be happy, man. Well, I think they're proving that it's happy because when you look at the attendance, they're probably one of the top drawing team in the SWAC right now.
Well, Wheeler Brown being a former AD, I mean, if you're Roman Banks, the football team made it to the SWAC championship game, your basketball team doing well,
women's basketball
right doing now, well.
Charles.
So as an administrator, I'm sure you're happy about those sports doing well at this point.
You're in hot cotton right now, Charles. There's no fans and buts about it. Yeah, can't put it any other way. Your major sports doing well. You can't ask for no more than that right there. And I mean, they're doing, I guess, pretty much what's expected. But I mean, you could say that the men's team is the poster child for how to navigate the guaranteed game waters and still be able to put together a decent conference schedule. And I would say the women, you could probably say the same thing. So I don't know if there's a particular formula that those guys are using or what have you, but if I'm on the outside looking in, I'm kind of peeking around the corner, kind of seeing if I can get some tips here and there. And hopefully they can make it last. But, you got a lot of those guys that are putting a lot of money into their programs that ain't really doing a whole heck of a lot. And, won't call any names, but there are going to be some conversations to be had, I think, at the end of the year for some of those teams at the bottom who, spending-wise, we know are pretty much close to the upper third in terms of dollars that they put into the program.
Yeah, I mean, it's always pressure to win. Coaches are making more money, and therefore the pressure to win is even more. And with the transfer portal, you can restock your rosters every year. Coach Pettaway, I've often thought about this. If you were coaching during the transfer portal era, in which you can flip your rosters every year, and our coach Landon Bussey says he lives in the portal. We got a freshman from Vicksburg recruited out of high school, but for the most part, you got a bunch of transfers on your team if you want to win. How do you think you would have done, Coach, if the transfer portal era was available when you were coaching?
Well, to be honest, Charles, I probably would treat it the same way I did the JUCOs. You go after immediate needs with that experience, but in order to sustain a program, I think you got to build it through those high school kids because you need that continuity. You need those kids coming back. And in this case of the portal now, man, you spend more time recruiting your own players during the course of the year and after the season to ensure that you got the same roster coming back. Because when you look across the SWAC, man, the teams that have retained their players right now, they're the ones that leading the SWAC now. So retention is a big thing. So that portal, I still think I would be very I would not just jump in it both feet in. I would still do it like I did the JUCOs, 1 or 2 at the most. That's it. It would not be a roster full of I never went for a roster full of JUCOs, and I don't think I would do it in that transfer portal either. I would address my immediate need with 1 or 2 kids out of that portal, but I think you have to build your program now to sustain your program. You got to have them kids year in and year out.
The bad part about it is, hell, they're going right next door. You know, when the kids leave you, they're going down the street.
Yeah.
Come on now. At least the other way around, you knew that you weren't going to see that kid that following year, that sort of thing. But now, with the way things are now, kid leaves Prairie View, he's trying to get into Texas Southern, or kid leaves Southern, he's trying to get into Grambling, that sort of thing. So, I mean, it's kind of mix and match, but you got to be mindful of who you're recruiting, regardless of whether they're coming out of the portal or not. I mean, I've always been a relationship type guy, so, I need to have either a prior relationship with a particular player, prior to me dipping into that transfer portal, or I got to know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody that know this guy, that's really going to be able to vouch for the character issues and all that sort of thing. So you got to do your homework, if not much more so, than we did, when we were out there coaching and trying to recruit, that sort of thing. And it's touch and go either way it goes.
Yep. When you look at Texas Southern's women and Coach Skeet, when you look at programs that have been really good in the past, you talk about Texas Southern's women's program when Cynthia Cooper led that program, and as good as they were, the coach after that, they've been a program that's been at the top. And Coach Skeet had a tough couple of years. This is year 3, I believe. And so she's had some kids leave her program. And it appears, watching them recently, that they've got a team, Coach Pettaway, that plays together, loves to be around each other, and it's paying dividends. I mean, they won 2 tough games in Alabama, something that's very difficult to do. And then that matchup that they had last week against Alabama A&M, I mean, for them to do what they did, considering what A&M's been doing, that was a pretty special win for them, and they're rolling right now. Why do you think that they're doing what they're doing at this point?
Well, I think it's because she can get you in the paint. She's got people that she can put that ball down in the paint. They can score on the paint. And they're on the defensive side, Charles, they do a pretty good job. Now, they get up in you. To be honest, I thought that Alabama A&M would be able to win that game. But, man, Texas Southern was just too strong coming down the stretch. They made fewer turnovers. They got what they wanted when it was time to score baskets. You could see her with a conscious effort of trying to get the basketball inside. You can see her with a conscious effort of trying to get the basketball to certain people on the floor. So she's got it going right now, man. And they believe in each other, and they play so doggone hard, man. That was a hard-fought game for us, and it was a very long game. But my hat's off to her, man. She's got the magic formula.
Well, then when you look at the women's side, you look at Texas Southern, clearly they're number 1, but then Jackson State, you look at Jackson State being number 2, but then Southern University tripped them up. So, guys, who do you think right now is that 2 seed right now, considering that Southern here the other night beat Jackson State, and it was pretty much a one-sided game, 64-47. Who do you think is that 2 seed right now?
Well, right now, it'll be Southern is still, I think, the strongest number 2 seed because they only have that one loss. But Alabama A&M, because we lost to Jackson State has the tiebreaker over us. So because we only played them once, so in head-to-head, they would get that next slot. But I'm gonna tell you who we better start looking out for. Grambling is on the rise, man. They're on the move now. Grambling is on the move. They've won 3 in a row. So we just got to be ready. Yeah, Texas Southern is the clear favorite right now with 7 in a row, but Southern is breathing down their neck. They've won 6 in a row, and then of course Grambling now has won 3 in a row. So you don't turn your back on Grambling; they'll sneak up on you.
Wheeler, how do you see it on the women's side? I mean, right now, going into the season, with no Coach Reed, the women's race was going to be wide open. I think Texas Southern has opened everybody's eyes at this point. Still a lot of basketball left, but you got a bunch of teams right there near the top and even in the middle of the standings. I mean, you talked about Grambling. The Lady Braves stumbled the other night, but they still can get in that middle seed. How are you seeing the women's race?
It's still pretty much anybody's guess. The usual suspects are going to be hovering around the top. Texas Southern, Jackson State, Prairie View right there. A&M, is right there. And, these next probably 10 days is going to be a real deciding factor in terms of who snatches the reins, so to speak, and try to guide that horse in going down the stretch. So it's going to be interesting. I still think it's going to be anybody's match, but the usual suspects are going to be hovering right around the top there, and you just hope that they can develop a measure of consistency and take it home down the stretch.
Right. Hey, Charles, one of the things I think now, this is a crucial weekend in Florida now, because you got Alabama A&M's women going down there, and you got Florida A&M and Bethune-Cookman snapping on their heels. So now Coach Thornton, she can make a look, she can get some separation from the Florida schools if she can go down there and win those two games. But it's going to be tough because Florida A&M is now 4-4, and Bethune-Cookman is 3-5 in the league. So she's got an opportunity to keep pace with the people that are in front of her. She can keep pace with Jackson. She can keep pace with Southern. And then everybody right now has to look up at Texas Southern.
Well, speaking of Florida A&M, probably one of the biggest surprises on the men's side was Florida A&M coming to Alcorn, erasing a 20-point deficit and winning that game at the Whitney Arena, and then going to Jackson and knocking off Jackson State in Jackson. And I was on Brian Fulford's show the other night, and I said if they beat Jackson, Coach Carey needs to have a contract waiting for him when he gets to Tallahassee, because I think right now you can say that he has exceeded expectations. So from an administrative standpoint and from a coach's standpoint, what do you make of Florida A&M all of a sudden? I mean, Valley and Pine Bluff, that got them going, but to win at Alcorn and Jackson, I think that's something pretty special down there in Tallahassee so far.
Right. Yeah, Charles, I promise you, that road trip, I think, to find what's going on down there at FAMU. For him to come in there, to go into Mississippi and come out of there with those 2 wins, that's big now. That's big. It was a toss-up with Valley and Pine Bluff, but they showed some moxie by going on the road and having 4 wins at this point. Now, what this does is, to me, it puts pressure on Alabama A&M, on our men's team, because now they're in Florida and they got to play against 2 teams that are doing pretty well in Bethune-Cookman and Florida A&M. And if they have any hopes of trying to finish up in the upper echelon of the SWAC, they got to win this weekend on the road. Yeah. But Florida, but to your point, I think Coach Carey has proven to everybody that he knows what he's doing. He should have a contract. It's unheard of for a coach to be in his first year at an institution for the first time, and all he has is a 1-year contract, man. Who does that besides us? Well, you don't do that, man. You don't do that. Yeah. And so I hope the powers to be wake up and go ahead and give this guy a contract, because I think that would take some of the pressure off of him, because he has a family just like the rest of us, man.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Wheeler Brown, for those who might not know the context, and based on what I've read, the way FAMU handles their contracts, the president at the time and their policy was, and it still might be, that the president can get an approval of a coach's contract on a 1-year deal without their board approval. So the previous president pushed that through, a 1-year deal. It was automatically approved because it's a 1-year deal. The board didn't have to get involved in that. And that's how Coach Carey is on this 1-year deal. Now, my sources are telling me that he's going to get a contract. They have a new athletic director, new president, new way of doing business. And he's proven that he can do this job. I mean, a 1-year deal is tough, but I think he's proven that he can do it, at least right now, Wheeler Brown. And I'm sure you would probably support getting, making it a longer contract, because he has exceeded a lot of expectations.
Oh, definitely. No doubt about that, because he could have rolled over and played dead, early on, when the contract situation came up. He could have been angling for the door or looking, for the door, that sort of thing. But, he had everything to prove. And, he's risen to the challenge so far. And, but he just want to make sure he don't overplay his hand. I mean, he might work himself into a position where he may wind up being a semi-hot commodity at the end of the season. So, I mean, he got to take into consideration and look toward that door also. If they did me this bad coming in the door, what's going to happen if I should have a bad year here or there or something like that. He's going to have to be mindful of all the things that he's going through, and not look at the entire situation with blinders on, but at the same time, don't overplay his hand. We very rarely get an opportunity to prove ourselves, and he's taking that opportunity right now and then pretty much ran with it, but, we got to see how he finishes up, how he ends up, and then see what the next step is going to be from there. But there's no doubt the man has earned a contract. There's no doubt about that. Now it's just a matter of whether it's going to be 2 year, 3 year, or what have you, and then we go ahead on and keep it moving from there.
Well, they came back from 20 down last week at Alcorn, and Landon Bussey told me he's never blown a 20-point lead. And so it was very jolting to him. But FAMU's got two really good shooters that can shoot you out of it, can shoot you back in it. And Coach Pettaway, those two guys were lights out in the second half against Alcorn. And their goal going in was clearly outside in. They couldn't throw it in the ocean. They were 0 for 12 from beyond the arc in the first half, but man, they had 8 critical threes. They were down 20 with 14 minutes left, and they just found a way to pull that game out. You don't come back from 20 down against a Landon Bussey coach team, but he did. And so that was huge. And then to go into Jackson 2 days later against the Jackson State team that was rolling.
Yep.
Because we know how these Monday games go. The late Davey Whitney says always upsets on Monday night in this conference. And so you come back from 20 down, you expel a lot of energy on Saturday. Then you come back against Jackson, a team that's playing pretty well, playing well at home, and they won that game. I think that says a lot about, Florida A&M. It's still early, about halfway point of the season, but you take every little win you can.
Right. That's true. Charles, what do you think is going on at Prairie View? I had the opportunity to see Coach Smith live. He came in there with only 8 players, and 2 minutes into the game, one of those was ejected for throwing an elbow. So that left him with only 7 players. And he ended up playing a kid that had only played like 2 minutes the entire season. He had to play him because of attrition. I've never seen a Smith coach team, first of all, with only 8 players dressed, and I've never seen him with a team that small. His biggest player was only 6'7", and he only had one of those for that game. So I'm wondering what's going on with Prairie View.
Yeah, I saw them a couple of weeks ago. They had more than 8 players, obviously. It's been a tough stretch. If you just want to be honest about it, Landon Bussey was the lead assistant coach there for 5 years. He leaves to go to Alcorn, and I think maybe part of it is some of the void left when he left. Some good players that Bussey recruited wound up at Alcorn, and I think Coach Smith is still trying to figure things out. It's tough. It's a different Prairie View team defensively. Landon Bussey cut his teeth with that when he was at Prairie View, and you clearly see there's a difference, and it's a tough situation there. Already they've replaced your football coach. I know some people probably aren't happy with the basketball situation, considering that Prairie View's used to being near the top tier, top shelf. So I think right now, I just think it's a lot of things. Offensively, they got a kid in Pettaway, coach.
Yeah, they got 3 of the top scorers. Yes.
3 top scorers. That's what he was averaging 26 a game when we played him. We held him to 14. He got a lot of his points late, but when you got a prolific scorer, you can kind of build around that. But we did a good job on him in the second half of that game. But it's clearly a different look, Coach Pettaway, as far as Prairie View is concerned. It's just the pieces just aren't fitting right now.
Right, Bush and Pettaway, they really hurt us. Bush had 28, Pettaway had 22. And even though he was smaller, man, they played with so much energy and so much fight, man. If had it not been for our size, that could have been a different outcome in that game. But so they're a surprise to me for being so far down. I thought going into this year, I thought he would be better on the floor, better in the standings, that kind of thing. But now we already talked about Florida A&M. That is a surprise team to me. But also now we got to take our hats off to Jackson State, because a lot of people didn't expect Jackson State to do what they're doing. Now we all know Southern is leading the men's side at 7-0, and Coach Johnson is to be commended because man, they play so doggone hard, and man, that defense with him changing up those different defenses, I think that's what's throwing a lot of people off, Charles.
Yeah, I mean, Wheeler, for you, I mean, year two of Coach Johnson, 7-0 in conference, decent non-conference. You know, the Carlos Brown contract, and there it is, right on cue.
Right. He came back with the contract. He came back with the contract. Yep.
Year two of Coach Johnson, 7-0. Did anybody expect this in year two with Coach Johnson and the Jaguars?
Yeah, but I think the other thing people are going to be waiting to see, because Southern has faded the last few years, down the stretch. I think if he can stay away from injuries, he's going to be okay. He's got more depth this year, and I think that's going to help him. In the past, when they had injuries, the depth wasn't there, so there was a drop off. I don't think there's going to be a big drop off this time around because he's playing more people, and defensively, man, I think that's been the big key for them this year. Go ahead, Carlos.
Well. Good morning. I don't know what happened. I mean, in this modern technology,
right?
And by the way, good morning to everybody. I was prepared to go, and then all of a sudden, that's it. But thanks for you guys to continuing on without me. And I guess you were talking about Southern University. Yeah, in year two. I think most people are pleasantly surprised. As you said, Coach Pettaway, they have tremendous depth, and they actually have two starters that were penciled in. They're out. Demasi is one.
Yep.
And the other young man who was a freshman, 6'8" freshman from last year, I saw him the other game with a boot on. So the depth has really been good for Southern University. The bench and what I like, my first time out seeing them against FAMU, they started off slow. It was like 6-6. He brought that second unit in, and they brought the energy. They went on something like a 14-0 run, and the rest was history. It ended up 91-57. And by the way, one of the hottest teams in the conference right now is FAMU, Texas Southern, and Southern. So this race is far from over. And to your point, a lot of people are still, just kind of waiting and see because of the last couple of years, Southern University on the men's side, they faded. Yeah. Hello, Greg. I'm here. But as usual, I would say what's trending. Of course, Southern's football schedule is out.
Right.
Officially, Alcorn is out. Jackson State has come out with their football schedule as we see Southern University schedule, and I think it's tougher than last year. In my humble opinion, you start off SWAC MEAC Challenge against North Carolina Central, and then Mississippi Valley. New coach, by the way. Southern goes to August 30th. Then you got the Pete Richardson Classic, Alabama State, which is no slouch at all.
Right.
And then you look at, September the 13th, Fresno State on the road, playing up. It is what it is. Then an open date. And by the way, 3 open dates, Charles, for Southern University. And what was your comment? You wish Alcorn had 3 open dates.
Yeah, this will really help. Yeah, especially going into that Jackson game, after Fresno, having that bye week in there, that'll help, get those kids back grounded. Those who have some nagging injuries have an opportunity to get better. That's good right there.
I hope to see Roman Banks at the game. I'm going to ask him, how does he do it? Because I think Southern, on average, Carlos, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, they might have at least 2 open weeks during the course of the season. I mean, how in the world, how do they do it? Because typically you only have 1. And for us, our bye week is in week 3. We have 9 straight weeks of football after that. And so people are questioning that. How do we get to that? But Southern typically has a couple of bye weeks, and they got 3 this year. And so I think that there's no excuse about not being rested when you got 3 bye weeks sprinkled in there.
Well, rest is good at some point, but if non-football related, I'm getting older, and sometimes when you don't move, you lose. So Wheeler, you can look at that. They're young, hey, use it a week before the Bayou Classic, right? And then one during the early part of the season. But I would like to ask Coach Banks as well, because 3 open dates. Also, one of these games has to be non-conference. Now, right. I talked to Travis Jerome at Jackson State, because I had a running bet with a friend who, discussion, saying the Jackson State game doesn't count. No, he said it does count in the conference standing, and that's what I thought, because the 2 previous years, they were on the schedule, Wheeler. They counted overall, but they didn't count in conference play. So I'm assuming, and I saw Coach Graves was peeping in saying hello there. I'm thinking it must be the Bethune-Cookman game that maybe is going to be a non-conference, because they've just come out playing them 2 years in a row. Last year, the 5 overtime game, and then the year before they went to Daytona Beach. So that's what I'm going to try to find out. Melvin, if you can put the schedule back up for me.
Right. That's what I was going to ask you. Is Bethune in Baton Rouge or on the road?
It's on the road.
Wow.
It's on the road. Yeah.
A non-conference game going that far. That's
well. That's what I'm thinking. It's a non-conference, but I may not be right on that. But one of those games has to be non-conference.
I just like to play it straight through. I like to play it straight through. When I crank it up, I want to crank it up for the year. Let's go. Let's go.
You mean with no buys?
With no buys. Wow. Let's go.
Well, Will, you're a hard liner, but come on.
Play it the way, man.
Really?
I might be reverting back to caveman days and all that sort of thing. But I'm a proponent of playing it the way it's supposed to be played. When you crank it up, don't crank it down until you're ready to take that uniform off for good and put it back in the locker. I'm ready to go. Let's go. Let's go.
Hey, but Carlos, one of the things that I noticed, that game against North Carolina Central, that's August the 23rd. That seems like it's early. Normally, you're not playing until that last weekend in August. So by that game being so early, that extends your season too now. So maybe that's why you got them 3 open days.
And that's officially week 0, right, Charles?
Yeah, that's week 0.
Week 0. So they kind of moved it up a week. It's a long season, so that means you'll probably come to camp the last week in July. Yeah.
Are you coming in July? Yeah. Because I think they still give you 30 days before your first contest, isn't it? Yeah. So that's the 23rd of August. Yeah, they'll be.
Yeah, they'll be coming in that last week of July, pretty much.
Yeah.
So I mean, somebody's gonna have to spend some money because they're coming in early.
Right.
Anytime they're coming in before school starts, you gotta pay for housing, you gotta pay for meals, the whole 9 yards with that. So, I know some budgeting is going on right now.
And Mr. AD Brown, and you still got to come up with a big chunk of money to send that team out to Daytona Beach too now, especially if that's a non-conference game.
No doubt about that.
Yeah,
no doubt about that.
When you have Mr. Hardliner, when you have the largest budget in the conference, that's from what I've seen. Now,
it should not be an issue, Carlos, and we might fly down and bust back.
Man,
just something to maybe think about, that sort of thing, depending on how the dollars look.
If that was USAD, you're right.
I got the number 1 budget in the SWAC. I'm sparing no expense.
Hey.
Well, if you got the number 1 budget, leave them buses out of the equation.
No doubt, man.
You leave them buses out of the equation. We ain't busing nowhere. But from the airport to the hotel and to the stadium, that's it. But Carlos, I wish I could comment on A&M schedule, but they have not released it yet.
It's coming out. It's coming out this week.
Yeah, it's supposed to be this week before we can get ours. And AD Brian has already, put it out there that a lot of the A&M fans are going to be happy with the schedule because he's bringing an opponent back that the fans have been clamoring for. So I'm assuming that's going to be Tennessee State. But I would hope Tennessee State is coming to Huntsville. That's what would make me happy. I'm tired of going to the John Merritt Classic. I don't want to be in no other kind of classic. Bring him to Huntsville. Bring him to Huntsville.
Well, Coach, there's one game I can give you that's on Alabama A&M schedule. September 5th, the first.
Yeah.
Now
I got you, Charles. All I need to know is your schedule. I got you, my brother.
All right.
I'm
I'm giving you a heads up right now. Every time I go to Huntsville, it's cold as heck up there. Every time
we're gonna have that warm weather.
If it's cold in Huntsville in September, I'm done with Huntsville. I'm gonna call AD True. I'm gonna call basketball games. I ain't coming back to Huntsville.
Yeah,
but that's Coach Shade's first game against a conference opponent. And speaking of that conversation we were just having, that game does not count for us or for A&M either.
Wow.
That's a non-conference game.
Yeah.
Now, the history of this, guys, and this is what Dr. McClellan said years ago, when you have these matchups like Jackson and Grambling, the games that don't count, the conference is not going to get involved in those matchups. I know some fans feel like, why are you playing them if it doesn't count? But those matchups you should play, just like you talked about Southern Bethune-Cookman, Alcorn, Alabama, A&M. That has spurred a conversation is the game doesn't count. Why are you playing the game at all? But these SWAC matchups still are meaningful, and you can make money.
There's still a need for them. And then, Charles, also, it's tough to find an out-of-conference opponent during the middle of the year.
Yeah.
Once that season is started, once you get to like week 4 or so, it's really difficult to find an out-of-conference opponent to play. And so everybody's pretty much in the same boat in the conference in terms of looking for games during that particular part of the year. So it makes it easier in order to go ahead and schedule a quote-unquote conference opponent, so that you can go ahead and make sure that you get all your games in.
Right.
Well, now we must look at something happened unusual. 224 and 225. What happened? 12 games back to back. Now that makes a difference as well. But to your point, Wheeler, some schools have had problems in the past finding those non-conference games. Because you remember when they were you were playing everybody in the conference because some teams had a hard time finding non-conference opponents. Not where I'm at in Baton Rouge. They've never had that problem. But that's just and I know it comes across as being arrogant, but they haven't. So but back-to-back 12 games overall schedule of football, FCS, I don't think it has happened before in the last 10, 12 years.
And I said that's going to become the norm. That's going to become the norm.
Yeah, you did say that. You did say that.
With all this lawsuit stuff and all this sort of thing and stuff, and NCAA is trying to find any way possible for schools to make up some of that revenue that they're giving up, and that 12th game is going to be one of the manners by which they do that.
And also, Charles, your favorite type of games, it'll probably be more opportunities for those cash cow games.
Wow.
And I did see the list that you sent.
Right, that's interesting, Carlos. That list is interesting now. You would think there are not a lot of big paydays on that list.
No,
there are not a lot of big paydays on that list. I mean, Brandon was up there for going to Ohio State, but other than that, man, I was sort of shocked.
Yeah. Did you see?
What I was shocked was that 98% of those games were PWI.
Right.
That shocked me more than anything. I was expecting to see a few more HBCUs on that list.
But Willie, here's the other thing too. Did you see that they're not really paying their brothers that much money.
No, they're not. And I've said that before. You know, you look at those in-state guarantees. Those schools that's not traveling a lot, they ain't getting a whole hell of a lot guarantee-wise. That's for sure.
That is true. But oh boy,
Carlos,
I can clip the
keep
list.
saying Southern and get that. It ain't Charlotte now.
No. Southern is getting $550,000 to go way out to California. But what I'm going to bring up, Nickel State? Oh, no, Northwestern State.
Yeah.
At LSU. Look that up right quick.
Yep.
And see. And so that is in the realm of what Southern got when they played LSU a couple years ago. So LSU is being so beneficial to their in-state schools because pretty much they told them you're paying the Western Carolinas, the Eastern Illinois to come in, keep that money in the state. So you know, Northwestern State is making
hometown discount, Carlos. You got the homeboy discount.
but you see the homeboy in the state of Louisiana compared to Mississippi.
Yeah.
Who's paying more?
Yeah.
Louisiana.
Now,
yeah, no doubt.
Again, for the record, you know, I don't even like these type of games. But if they're out there, if you're going to get scalped, might as well get as much money as you can.
Well, here's a question with the settlement and the amount of money that these student athletes are getting paid from the university going forward. And these bigger universities are trying to find a way to make money any way they can. They're going to impose a jock tax on these season tickets. You've seen it, Tennessee, Arkansas. You're talking about the big boys. But I'm saying in terms of affecting the bottom line, do you think it's going to impact the amount of money they're paying these guarantee games? Is that going to be impacted instead of 3, maybe 2 and change? Because now these schools have to spend more money to pay these student athletes, where that wasn't the case before. Does that, even though they're getting more money on the other end from the TV revenue, do you think it's going to impact the guarantees going forward? 2028, you know, next year I think we're going to USM. 27, we're going to Ole Miss.
How much they're getting?
I'm gonna say USM probably 3.
Unbelievable! I wouldn't do it. 300,000. No.
3 hours away.
Collective increase. I don't believe it's going to be a collective increase overall, Charles. I think it's going to continue to be on a case-by-case basis.
Right.
You know, who has a relationship with who, that sort of thing. And, you know, if we're still the flavor of the month as time moves forward, then maybe we get a couple more extra dollars because woe is me and, you know, we need it and all that sort of thing. But, you know, my thing is I don't think it's going to be a collective all of a sudden we're going to give our schools or give these schools an extra 100,000 or an extra 200,000, you know, because of the situation with the lawsuit and all that sort of thing.
Right. Hey, but now, Carlos, were you referencing Southeastern going to LSU? That's who getting the 750.
Yeah. What I said, Northwestern State.
Yeah. It's Southeastern going to LSU for 750. But now going into the SEC, going into the Big Ten, I think it's based on the conference. It's just like in basketball. We know certain conferences are not going to pay. You know, you're not going to get a big payday with some of these conferences, man. If you want to get paid, you got to go to the SEC. You got to go to the ACC. You got to go to the Big Ten to get money for basketball. You're not going to get that $100,000 payday fooling with some of these other conferences, man. These smaller conferences, they're not going to do that. And I think that because of the lawsuit, I don't think it's going to decrease your guarantee money that you get, because the Power 4 schools, they got the money to give the athletes, to pay the athletes. You know, they got to give them what, $22 million? $22 million has to be split up with them athletes. They got that. So it's not going to hurt them to continue giving us a decent payday. But you just got, I think it's like Wheeler said, it depends on if you got a relationship with those people, whether or not you can drive up that guarantee money. But there are certain conferences that will not pay. They don't have it. Conference USA is not going to pay you a whole lot of money. They don't have it. I've been on that side of it negotiating. Yeah. And then when the coaches meet at the Final Four, we get together and talk. Say, hey, man, you need to stay away from this school. You need to stay away from this conference. And they don't play.
Y'all talk about that at the Final Four?
Don't overplay your hands because you're going to be disappointed.
Yeah,
don't overplay your hands.
He was talking about basketball.
Yeah,
right,
that was basketball now. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was talking about basketball now. Yeah. I know how they do it in basketball.
But that is true, Coach Pettaway. There, I've talked with our coaches, and you'll be surprised. There is a school in the SEC that doesn't pay what you think they pay.
Hey, put the name out there.
Who is it?
No, South Carolina.
Oh, South Carolina. Okay.
South Carolina women. South Carolina.
Women. The women. Wow.
Yeah, Dawn giving up the homeboy discount. You know, ain't no doubt about that. She giving an HBCU discount. You know, so she's a proponent of HBCU women's basketball, that sort of thing. So, you know, she goes out of her way to schedule HBCU opponents out of conference, and she also goes out of her way to give them as much money as she possibly can.
But the assumption is that because they're so good and they're raking in the dough, that the guarantee should be a lot more than what they're being given. When I've been told they're not being given what you're getting playing USC or Tennessee or maybe even LSU. It's not. I'm here. This is what I've been told now. It's not.
And you're probably right. You're probably right, Charles. And it's still, I'm telling you, geography has a lot to do with it. It still does. You know, regardless. Somebody from Georgia is not going to get as much money as somebody coming into South Carolina from LA or coming from, you know, Ohio or what have you. You know, geography is going to play a big part in that. But I know she has gone out of her way to take care of HBCU schools in terms of dollars. Probably a guarantee that would have garnered maybe 35 or 40,000. She's given like 70, 75.
Right.
You know, and she's bought teams dinner. You know, she's paid for hotel rooms and all that sort of thing and stuff. So, you know, she's done a lot in terms of being a proponent of women's basketball on the HBCU level, a lot more than some of these other schools. I can tell you that.
Right. That's true. That's true. Yeah. And I think relationships, I think the big key is relationships. See, that's just like when we used to go way out to Wichita State. If it hadn't been for Coach Brown, I wouldn't have gone out there, man. It's relationship. And he would give us $90,000 to come out there. And I could get some meals out of it. You know, I think it's relationships when it comes to scheduling and trying to bring home as much money as you can by getting your opponent to defray some of the expenses.
So in other words, in football, Carlos, Grambling football is very lucky that Ohio State picked up the phone and called them to pay them $1 million next year.
Definitely.
I mean, it doesn't get any better than that because we're not going to get $1 million. I mean, I think Southern, when they play Georgia, what did they get? 700,000, the Gales game. And so you're not going to see, other than Grambling, Ohio State, if you get anywhere close to that, that's just, you know, that's maybe a handshake thing, relationship thing, but you're not going to see that. I think you're going to see anywhere from 3 to 7. And of course, that Grambling, Ohio State is an outlier. You're not going to see that. But I think anywhere from 3 to 7, anywhere in between that, include your band in there, could be a couple of pennies more or less, but anywhere from 3 to 7.
And Charles, I think that deal was made prior to Gene Smith retiring. Yeah, because I don't think under the current regime they would get that like right now, like today. Yeah, but Gene Smith was the AD, I think, when that deal was made, and you know he's been a pretty good proponent of HBCUs also.
Hey, but Will, let me tell you what that game is about now. That game ain't just about football. That game is about them doggone bands. You hear me? That game is about them doggone bands because Ohio State is saying that they're the best band in the country. And Granite State has always said, you know what the flavor is now, right? So now I promise you, that halftime performance in that fifth quarter, that's gonna be off the chain up there now.
I agree with that.
Off the chain up there.
And guess what? Now let me go ahead and take a break. I was going to get ready to take a little shot at both of those bands.
I got you.
The Sonic Boom and the Human Jukebox would say otherwise.
I got you.
The Marching 100, the Wildcats band.
Right.
Sounds of dynamite.
But you know,
what the Marching Maroon and White? Look at that. They at the Battle of the Band. How many of us right now at the Battle of the Band? Are we there? Is the jukebox there?
I don't know.
The Battle of the Band is going on in California right now today.
Somebody will let me know. I've got a lot of other things on my mind between, Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat, and boy, that Dark Horse team is really interesting. Oh, cell phone's going off now. Can Jimmy and Miami swap players? The Pelicans and the Heat? Very interesting. We'll take a timeout when we come back. Since I joined the show late, of course, Southern University, we'll take a look at they're on the roll. Both men's and women's basketball team. And of course, we took a look at 2025 football schedule for Southern University. So when we come back, we'll get into some SWAC basketball. Very interesting, Coach Pettaway.
Yes, sir.
Very interesting. And by the way, Charles, you didn't know I was going to let that slip. I saw you on the Sunday show on the Black College Sports Network, and you kind of said, hey, watch out for FAMU, men's basketball team. Boy, they come from 20 points down to defeat Alcorn. Then they make the short little trek to Jackson, and they take care of Jackson.
Yep.
So, Southern Band is in LA.
Yep, okay.
I didn't want to speak on anything I didn't know.
Well, I knew about the A&M band because it's big around here. Yep.
Somebody got plenty of money. I
tried to tell you all that.
Woe is
I
me.
tried to tell you.
Woe is me.
And guess what? If you're not able to get these big guarantee games in football and basketball, what will happen? Would our school survive? Will they have to come together and make it work? What happens if somebody says you only allowed a couple of those games, basketball and football, once a year, maybe once every 2 years? How would you feel? Would we survive?
Yes.
Yeah.
I say we can, but it means somebody's got to work a little harder.
that and your belt's gonna have to be tightened budget wise.
That's what it is. Now that's what's gonna happen.
Well,
that budget belt is gonna get a little tighter.
Mm-hmm. So see, it's easy to get those type of games, but boy, if you don't have them, I still go back to how much money Jackson State's getting from playing Southern Miss this year. What, about 300,000?
275, I think. Is it 275 or 375? 275. 375.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I know Southern Miss is not a Power 5.
Yeah, 375.
But I know Jackson State's coming off some successful seasons. I think they can get a little more in the negotiation.
Nah.
Not for going right down the street, Carlos.
You're saying right down the street, but their brand. I think they can get an extra 50 or 100,000.
No,
Carlos, let me ask you this.
I don't think so. I wouldn't try.
Alabama State.
I wouldn't
Alabama
try.
State going to UAB. They're getting 345.
Mm-hmm.
Birmingham is an hour and
Right
30
down
minutes.
the street.
An hour and 30 minutes from Montgomery.
Ask for it. And that's what negotiations about. And if they turn you down, hey, go somewhere else.
You won't guarantee you won't get a return call that next year. That's for sure.
Good. I'll go somewhere else.
If I feel like you trying to put pressure on me to increase my guarantee, and I've already told you this is what it is, but you insist on pushing a little more, nah, somebody else in line to get that 300 or that 375 or what have you. Somebody else dying to get it.
Let them go.
And I can probably get away with giving them 275 instead of 300 and
Right.
50 pieces. So
Well, we sell our souls for 10 pieces of silver. That's what we're doing.
Hey, Carlos, what about PV going to Rice? PV going to Rice for 350.
That's even closer.
Yeah.
Rice, not good at all. Not good at all.
But I'm talking about the guarantee now, 350.
And that's one in which, from an expense standpoint, now
Thank you, please come again. Thank you, please.
Well,
come
I'm
again.
just saying, okay. So Prairie View and Rice is like you going to Texas Southern, right? Do you necessarily want to stay in a hotel? Do you? I mean, you don't have to. I mean, you could. That's 45, 50 minutes away. You could do that. You know, you got your transportation. They'll probably have meals for you after the game. That's one you'll be free and clear a whole bunch of money for something like that when you're playing that. Jackson and USM, an hour and 30 minutes away. I'm sure Jackson football team will probably stay at Hattiesburg. But you know, when you look at that expense, how much does it cost for a football team to stay one night in a hotel? I can tell you, it's not cheap. But when you're getting that, you're still going to bring home a decent amount of money, even for that. So I look, we can argue whether or not USM can afford to pay it. They're not going to give you any more than that. They're paying Charles $975,000, which is
so
more.
Who needs the game more? It sounds like you're saying Jackson and Alcorn needs it more than.
But obviously, Carlos.
Somebody agree with me. Thank you, Willie.
Look at that list, when we look at that list, obviously the PWIs need it more because they're the ones that dominate that particular list.
Yeah, that's true.
So
if
we're looking at it logistically and realistically, you know, they need that money just as much as we do, and they're going out there and getting it. You know, we pussyfooting around. We get lost in the sauce. They're going to get that money, Carlos, and I'm sure. I don't know if they pissing and moaning about it, or you know, arguing about it. Maybe we should get more of that sort of thing. But you know, obviously they coming to the table very fast. And they putting their name on the dotted line very quickly.
But guess what? It appears that they're getting more too, right? Then
Arkansas
HBCUs.
Arkansas Pine Bluff getting $575,000 to go to Texas Tech.
That's better. Go ahead, UAPB. See, somebody's negotiating a little tougher there.
Yeah. Okay, but look at this now. Here's a PWI. Austin P going to Georgia. Georgia ain't giving them but $550.
And Georgia one of the $1 million schools.
Right.
You wouldn't expect Georgia to give up
they're getting $500 from Georgia.
But what I'm saying is, it's all one. Whose brand is bigger? I got to go back to Southern again. That same team, Southern, coming further than Austin P, correct?
Yeah.
Everybody agree with that?
Yeah.
You would think Austin P would have gotten more money, right? Guess who got more? Southern did. So who's negotiating those contracts?
You got the homeboy discount now, Carlos. Come on.
Not to Georgia. Not to Georgia.
You got the flavor of the month discount now. Come on.
No. That's in Louisiana. But they're going to Georgia.
Yeah, I'll give you one worse than that. Eastern Illinois is coming down to play the University of Alabama, and they're only getting $560,000.
Shame on Eastern Illinois. Shame on them, Coach Pettaway.
Alabama.
Who's negotiating those contracts? Some people are desperate. They got their hands out. Coach Pettaway, it depends on who's negotiating.
All right, Carlos, let me ask you a question. But you got your Southern cap on. Let's say Georgia's AD calls Roman Banks Monday morning and says, in 2027, we want Southern to come back to the Plains, to Georgia, for $750,000.
We'll factor in inflation. It goes up to 900,000. Make it $1 million. $1 million.
Carlos, you ain't gonna have no schedule, man. You ain't gonna have no schedule.
Buy them. See, you
still trying to find a game.
Go play Georgia State or somebody.
Yeah.
Next question.
Next question. Hey, now here's a good deal. Listen at this one now. Eastern Kentucky is going over to play Louisville, and they're getting $550,000. That's Kentucky.
Not bad in the state. Not bad.
Yep.
Not bad. Not bad.
And no, that's about 2 hours apart, less than 2 hours.
Yeah.
Yep. So now that is a good one.
So those games make sense when it's in state, when it's 2 to 3 hours away, distance between the two schools. When you get that kind of guarantee, it's probably a low ball. But when you look at the expenses that go into it, if you're 3 hours from campus, it probably makes sense. It probably
makes sense. If you think that I'm at a school that sells out, regardless of if I'm playing a Liberty Bible, it doesn't make a difference. I'm gonna sell out. Carlos, I ain't giving you more money, okay, because you got the Golden Girls or whomever, I don't know, the Dancing Dolls, who are they? You know, I ain't giving you more money because you're going to bring your band now, and I'm thinking more people going to come. I'm selling out anyway. I'm sold out. Matter of fact, I hope the band don't come because there's more tickets for me to sell.
Well, let's look at it this way. We're going to use Southern again, for example. I know. We're going to use Southern again. Not only did they get what they got against LSU, then they got an extra $50,000 to the foundation, plus the band. With Georgia, same thing. They got over $700,000. I am saying I don't know who's negotiating for everybody else. But I'm just telling you what's up. And when God rest his soul, when Marino Castle was AD, it was a bottom line of what will it take me to even entertain to possibly go to that game. And that's just the way. Now, Jackson State, to me, Ashley Robinson, Jackson State, they're hot right now. If they were to go to LSU and play, I think they would get more money than what they're getting to play in the state of Mississippi this year.
Well, to your point, Carlos, that's a very good question as far as Jackson. Speaking of that, Jackson State is playing Grambling in Las Vegas.
Oh, yeah.
And so we were texting about that this week, and I was texting my friend at Grambling, how much is Grambling going to have to come out of to go to Las Vegas? Who's the promoter, all of that? And he told me not much of anything.
I think it's a Grambling night that's for this annual HBCU Classic. And so that means it's going to be another edition.
Now, this is Jackson. This would have been Jackson's home game, correct? If they were just playing each other, the game would be in Jackson, correct?
I can't see the comments in the YouTube.
They were in Grambling last year, so it would be Jackson's game. So in order for that game to be taken speaking of Ashley Robinson, for him to take his home game against a SWAC school to Las Vegas, there must be an advantage financially for that, because you would be playing Grambling at the Vet, which would be a blue blood SWAC rivalry. Yep. You're taking that to Vegas, so you must be getting something out of that.
My home game, we would be getting 50-50, that's for sure.
Oh yeah.
We wouldn't.
You have to get a little more. Yeah.
We wouldn't get the same amount. No way.
Right.
Yeah, but that may be what's happening. You never know.
From the outside looking in, not privy to the insides, I'm thinking they're making more than what they would make at a home game to move that game to Vegas.
Game and band.
I don't think so.
So you think it's break even for them just to go?
It may very well be. I think if so, it might be a $50,000-$60,000 difference. You know, sometimes you're taking games, for your alums, to give your alums a place to travel and all that's coming into play also. And I've been in the room with presidents, negotiating this, that, and the other, that sort of thing, and have been told straight up, oh, that's a great trip for our alums and our board and, all that sort of thing. I think, Mr. Brown, we need to make that happen.
As he said that, asking you and already know, he wants that game moved. Wow. Direct exposure, indirect exposure. Wow. I'd rather have Coach Pettaway, I'd rather have cash in hand. That's just me. The pat on the back. Oh, it looks good. It feels good. Pay me.
Yep.
We got to take a time out. When we come back, it'll be more of the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. We shall return.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
It's like a loop machine. All around town, people trying to get down. It's like a loop machine.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
Looking for the ultimate cultural experience of 2025? The Zora Outdoor Festival of the Arts is where you need to be. From January 31st to February 2nd, Eatonville, Florida will come alive with incredible live performances from the Levert Experience and the Bar Cave. Immerse yourself in interactive art. Shop from over 80 vendors. Take a journey through history with a new virtual tour app. And enjoy family-friendly STEM activities. Plus, don't miss the unforgettable R&B tribute to the legends, honoring talents such as Whitney Houston, Marvin Gaye, and Luther Vandross. This is more than a festival. It's a celebration of Eatonville's rich cultural heritage. Visit zorafestival.org for tickets.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. Glad to be with you. Boy, if you're just tuning in, I was absent from the show for about 20 minutes, Charles. I don't know what's going on. It's just been strange today, but sometimes those things happen. You have to
technology.
Make the adjustment. And I thought maybe because I was, just thinking about before we came on the air about the Miami Heat and Jimmy Butler, of course, that these rumors are flying everywhere. The latest one from many uh, many sources, the New Orleans Pelicans have got into the fray. You're shaking your head, Charles, from reliable sources.
Yeah.
It may not happen, but they have become a player in the Jimmy Butler sweepstakes.
Yeah.
Now, I can pull it up on my phone. It's a long article. Of course, you've got Golden State mentioned. You have Phoenix. Memphis was mentioned. At the end of the day, he's going to be moved by the deadline.
Who would the Pelicans give up?
Well, they have an expiring contract, and Ingram is in the same situation as Butler. He wanted an extension. Management says no. So his value, his contract is pretty much in line with Jimmy Butler. Now, my question is, who would be the other pieces that they would have to add in to make this trade go down? And then also, you notice that they're saying you have to have 3, sometimes a 4th team to get into this. So, Chicago Bulls was mentioned. At the end of the day, my prediction is this: he won't be in Miami. Now, where he goes, Steve Kerr and Curry says, I don't know if he fits our culture in Golden State. Phoenix, they've made some moves to be able to acquire him. They feel that he will be the alpha that they need. Memphis, Jimmy said he doesn't want to go to Memphis, but they've got the pieces. They've got the salary cap to make a move, but they're doing pretty well. Houston, the same thing. They're young, second best record in the West. They don't want to mess up what they got going now.
Right. I wouldn't.
So the Pelican situation with Ingram, Zion, just not reliable enough at this point in his career. Phoenix seems really they want him. But you know what? One of Pat Riley says that makes a lot of sense for Phoenix, but despite him and the attitude that's been displayed, they may try to force him to go elsewhere. So we'll see. It is a divorce, and now restitution has to be made.
Jimmy Butler wants to go to one place, one place only. I think he's frustrated in the fact that, you see this guys in the NBA, when players want to go, they usually are gone, and they usually go to where they want to go. If LeBron wants to go to Miami, he went back to Cleveland. He wanted to be a Laker. He's a Laker. Jimmy Butler wants to go to Phoenix. He feels like he's in that category. Send me where I want to be sent. Send me to Phoenix. And he probably felt like he should have been in Phoenix by now. So all of this pushing and pulling, get him out of Miami. I don't think the Pelicans are a good fit just because of Jimmy Butler's attitude. His play on the court is phenomenal, but is he going to fit that culture, what's going on in New Orleans right now, before he starts spoiling? He'll spoil quickly on you. So I don't see New Orleans, even though they might have the assets, but long term, is that a good fit for Jimmy Butler in that organization? I would say no.
It's not about long term.
Yeah,
Charles. Jim is 35 years old. That's young in life, but in professional basketball, you don't have that much time left.
Yeah.
So he probably will. Go ahead.
Hey, Carlos, Ingram wouldn't be good for Miami. He's not an alpha, man. He wouldn't be good for Miami.
Yeah, but I like his scoring when he's healthy. 6'9", can play the 3, can play the 2, can play the 4. Because to be honest with you, and that's a valid point, Coach Pettaway, Bam will probably be the star now, but he's not in that mindset of Jimmy Butler, that alpha dog.
Right.
Although he should be, but that's just not his personality.
Correct.
So, You know, it's interesting. But if I'm going to be a Heat fan regardless, Jimmy's not there. So I got to take on that position. I want to get the most, and they've lowered the amount that they wanted. Damaged goods, whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
With that being said, if I'm negotiating for Miami, I'm trying to get the best pieces back that I can in that situation. I don't know. Ingram intrigues me, Coach Pettaway. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
But they're dog horse, you know, who knows what will happen.
Hey, Carlos, before you get into that next segment, I just want to send out my condolences to Sammy Jackson's family, Desmond, Devin, his wife, Jill. I lost my longtime assistant, and he'll be funeralized next Saturday.
Okay.
And in fact, Charles, he was one of the longest tenured coaches in the SWAC now. Sammy was with me for 11 years, and all of them were in the SWAC. So that would put him as one of the longest tenured assistant coaches in the SWAC. So my condolences go out to his family. And I just wanted to do that publicly. Thank you, Paulo.
Right. He was a great guy, really, really great guy. Coach
Yep, Fort Valley. He was at Fort Valley.
Met him and talked with him when I was at Fort Valley.
Right.
And
yep.
You know, we had some great conversations, that sort of thing. And you know, really, really, really great guy. So you know, my heart goes out to his family and friends, things of that nature.
Journey well from the physical standpoint, although from the spiritual realm, it's just like matter, physics. It's never destroyed.
Right.
It's never. So his spirit will live on. Thanks, Coach Pettaway. Spirits. Let me go through the scores quickly because I was late coming to the show. 64 to 47. That was Southern and Jackson State. Charles, I heard you on the broadcast. You seem to be a little surprised by that score. That's women. Excuse me, Southern University. 17-point victory over Jackson State.
Yeah, I was surprised. I thought it would be a close game, but you know, I think it just shows you how good Southern is. And just in preparing for the game, I mean, Southern's women, they don't wow you in terms of scoring. Defense is where it's at. And so if you can never have a night off defensively. And when you don't, you have a pretty good team. So Southern University, you got to give them credit. I mean, they're one of the top teams in the league. Jackson was rolling and Southern knocked them off their perch. So I think it's still growing pains for Coach Richards. Year one, I think she's still exceeded expectations. A lot of us didn't expect this at this point. So I mean, and as Coach Kilbert said after the game, you're gonna have some nights like that where you're gonna get bumped off your perch a little bit, get knocked off the curb, but then you get right back up. So he really wasn't surprised. I was surprised at just the level of that score, but it just shows you that Southern's one of the top teams.
Yeah. Coach Pettaway and Wheeler. Not surprised that Southern won, but as Charles alluded to, I thought it would be much closer. And Coach Richard, Jackson State's women's coach has done a great job, because remember I had to come back and say, I was in error about the cupboard was left, slim pickings there. But, they're still fighting, battling for first place. And so Texas Southern on the women's side, still undefeated. Coach Pettaway, you got a chance to see them, I think, personally. Sir. And believe it or not, believe it or not, here I go. I got to toot my horn again. They're undefeated. They almost had one loss, Coach Pettaway, and it was the Southern women who were up double digits, and they let it slip away. So this race is going to go down to the last ball game in the conference, I believe.
Right, I do. I think that there's no clear-cut favorite like it's been in the past, like Jackson State has dominated. But now you better look out for Grambling now. Grambling women are getting together. I think they've won 3 in a row now, Carlos. So y'all better keep an eye on Grambling now.
I always have an eye on Grambling. Now, our sisters and brothers from the North Louisiana. And Charles, they're still talking about that return game. Southern and Grambling. It's going to be brutal.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, boy.
Yeah. Coach Simmons got a lot of options now. I mean, I did the game the other night. Up at, we lost to Grambling. That was our fourth. We're going to have our fourth game in 7 days, and Coach Kilbert gave Grambling credit. He also thought that his team was a little bit winded because we didn't play last Thursday because of the snow. So we played Saturday and then Monday. We normally wouldn't play Monday, and then we played Thursday. So you can call it an excuse or whatever you want to call it, but we clearly didn't have something like this past Thursday. But you give Grambling a lot of credit. They did. They came out. They took it to us, and I think Grambling is a team you're going to have to watch out for. And I think there was some bulletin board material. Remember, Alcorn eliminated Grambling in the SWAC tournament, and we believe that there was some bulletin board material there. And Grambling showed that, hey, don't discount them when this is all said and done.
Right. And then, Carlos, on the women's side, you got some big games today now. You got some big games today that I think will have a lot to do with this conference race. And one of them is Jackson and Grambling. I think that's a big one. Going to have a lot of say so. And then for Coach Thornton, she needs to go into Florida and win. And so she's at FAMU today. She needs to win that game.
EA, Carlos Brown, JSU backside will still be sore. Mud from the extension cord, but women from the Rattlers. Tell them to move your hand and continue the whipping. Oh, boy.
Yep, Mom used to tell you to move that hand out the
way. And as we go on, of course, Southern defeated Arkansas Pine Bluff on the women's side by double digits, 52-36, and also a 20-point victory over Mississippi Valley State, 71-51. Coach Pettaway, why? It's still pressure. Southern's men team undefeated. Let's be honest. I don't think they're going to go the whole conference without a loss. The pressure, and then the women are 6-1. So
Yep.
I think we lost him here.
Okay.
I think what he
the question was about the pressure. It was about pressure, right? Well, I think Coach Johnson, but Coach Johnson and Funches are veterans. I don't think they're gonna feel the pressure. They put more pressure on themselves than I think it would be from the outside. I think that's how most coaches view that. Both of these guys are winners. They want to win. And right now, they're doing the things that they need to do to get their teams in position to still be at the top of the standings. And with 10 teams going to that tournament, man, this is going to be a great year in SWAC basketball.
Well, I think and the other thing about pressure, okay, so you look at the women's side, Coach Funches, when no one expected him to win the SWAC tournament a couple of years ago and knock a Jackson off, I think he's been through that grinder. So I think he understands. But Wheeler Brown for the men's side, I mean, this is Coach Johnson's second year, and we talked about it in the first hour. The expectation in year two, you kind of expect it to be a gradual improvement.
I think their thought is right now, both of them squads. I think their thought right now is, how can we sustain this?
Right.
What is it that we're doing that appears to be the right formula? Can we stick with this? Can we, even add more to this to try to keep this going? So I think their thing is more about eliminating complacency, than anything else.
Right. And then with them, both of them playing Alcorn today, man, that's going to be interesting. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
But at least they got them at home though, Charles.
Yeah. And I'm here, and we're getting ready for the first time in a while. You look at Alcorn at this point in the season, we're not near the top of the standings. We got 3 losses, and if any hope of winning the regular season, I think goes down the drain if we don't win today.
Carlos, you want the game, Carlos?
You bet. I have the entourage. I'll be sitting in my usual section.
Where you gonna be sitting?
I'll be sitting behind. For the women's game, I'll be by the opponent's basket. That's kind of let's see, the south side
Up
of
high.
the
Well,
You
make
normally
sure
sit
you
up.
send
You
Charles some hot dogs and popcorn over there to the table over there.
Mr. Brown, do not count Jackson State out yet. It's not over.
That's true.
No.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah,
Right.
we're not
For
counting anybody out.
No.
Mhm.
Right.
Because on the men's side, look, FAMU, Mr. Farmer is like Fort Valley State.
Now I think he's talking about the football. Who's going to be the football coach?
Right.
Nobody knows right now at this time, and conventional wisdom says that they may go with an interim for the year,
It's late.
and then circle the wagons back around and try to do it all again. They're having issues trying to find an AD right now, from what I'm told. And so you're kind of trying to walk and chew gum at the same time, and it may not be working too well.
Well, you probably have to go to interim at this point. Before I left and I had to come back in, let me quickly on the men's side. And Willie says, we too small, Carlos, and that will come and play at the end of the season. Well, you're going to get those kind of comments because of the last couple of years. But when we talked to Coach Johnson after last season, and you remember he came on, he talked about finishing games. And that was, if you draw it on the board, that was theme number one. Then two, free throw shooting, let them down, doing that slide at the end of the season, and rebounding. They've been rebounding much better this year. And Coach Pettaway, I hear it all the time, and I think I text you one time. The thing is, I get asked a lot, why can't the HBCUs consistently get the 6'10", 6'11" players? And just as you're shaking your head now, tell us what you told me in that text message.
Well, it's just not in the cards, man. If the big kids, even if some of those big kids rather sit on the bench somewhere else than come to us, man. The ones that can play, the Power Fives and the other guys, they're sucking them up. And then you don't have as many. Right now, Alabama A&M is probably the tallest team in the SWAC.
Yep.
None of them play in the post.
And then if they can play, they don't want to put their back to the basket.
Right, that's 7 threes.
Everybody want to crank the three, pump fake, drive, and all that sort of thing and stuff. Don't nobody want to be a traditional post player now. Even the bigger kids, they don't want that.
Get down in the post, big man.
Thank you.
Play inside out. But here we go, Charles. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I still say the European influence. Those kids, 6'11", 7 foot, they don't play. You can look at the NBA, and by the way, the NBA viewership is down big times. One of the things they said is too many threes. Look at Boston. How many threes they're putting up? But anyway, I digress. But I'd rather have 6'8", 6'7", 6'6" guys that are athletic. And I would go with some big guards. If I had some big guards, 6'5", 6'6", you're just not going to get those big guys consistently.
Right. That's why you got to work with what you have. Put them 6'6" and 6'7" down in that paint. Let's play inside out, man. And to me, that's the ticket, man. That's the ticket. A lot of these teams, all they're doing is jacking up these threes. That's a long rebound, and they running it back down your throat on the other end because it's a long rebound. I mean, he got 7 foot, 6'11", 6'9", all of them on the perimeter. Everybody shoots the three.
Wow.
Never in my life. It would not happen. Man, I'm not going to be on the sideline with that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wait a minute, man. What is that? As a Laker fan, I'm so ashamed at how much I enjoy watching Boston play. Blasphemy, Melanie.
No, EA, no. I don't think they don't. When you talk about self-promotion, she's out in the community. She's doing things the right way. You can look at our attendance. You can look at how well received she is in this community. Don Thornton is doing it. I promise you, she's doing it the right way. Now, I hope you're not talking about the hype videos now. I think most schools have those now. They have a very long Carlos, if you come to an A&M game now, you know, you got to get your popcorn and stuff early because for the introduction for both men and women, they got these hype videos that are playing on the big screen. Mm-hmm. Now, if we was in the Elmo, we ain't had to worry about that because we ain't had no dog. We didn't have that. But with all this new technology, yes, they did a production, student-led. It was student-produced, and it's nice. But no, I don't think they're putting too much into it, EA. I think she's doing it the right way. She was not expected to win, this being her first year. But remember now, we're just not getting to the halfway point. So she's winning now. Let's revisit this at the end of the year. But in my opinion, I know she's going to be in the top 3 or 4. She'll be competing for that championship. Yep.
And the interesting thing, I was looking at some basketball projections, and Charles, it's just projections. Because we had the conversation about most coaches, you said in the conference, rather have the play-in games.
Yep.
Right now, I looked at one projection. Southern University projected to go against Purdue, a 15th seed. And again, that's projection because they have to win the tournament. Yeah. That's no given. But
so that's 15 versus the 2 then.
Yeah.
So they have to do it.
Not much big difference. Yeah. That's one projection.
So what that means then is that Purdue. That means that Purdue is not one of the top 4 teams. If you're a 2 seed, that means Purdue's one of the probably 5, 6, or 7 ranked team in the country at that time when Purdue was a 1 last year. So they project a little bit of a slippage from Purdue.
And they have. Yeah. But again, that's just a projection.
Yeah.
Right. But Carlos, I look forward to seeing you all next week. But I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to slide. But look, this is a big weekend for SWAC basketball, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, for Southern, Alcorn State, and then hadn't talked much about it, but Jackson State comes in. Boy, that's always on a Monday. Oh,
yeah,
always on a Monday. A Saturday crowd is going to be better, and by the way, it makes me think of my colleagues. I won't mention the names, but I said last week, they said funny things happen down in Baton Rouge as far as officiating. How dare you? And you know who you are. Somebody from the OG, Spike Sun Show, and Dr. Cavill's, inside Dr. Cavill's HBCU Sports Lab. Now, you figure it out. When Dr. Cavill.
Yeah.
But the truth is often told a joke. We're joking about it. But Willa, no. Coach Pettaway, you've been to the FG Clark Activity Center. We home cooking. Southern doesn't get the calls like on the home team. I'm telling you, it's the opposite. And I don't want to go off on the 3 officials, but boy, that baseline official, if I had hair, I would pull it out. I expect you to make the call. Don't point out to the official on the perimeter, although sometimes you can't see. You told me, Coach Pettaway, you can't see something happen, but consistently, it's been better this year. But last year, they're always pointing out, I can't see. I didn't see it. I defer to the perimeter official. I guess the question would be, Coach Pettaway, was it better when they had 2 officials or 3?
No, it's 3. It's 3. It's better with the third. You need that extra set of eyes in there. The players are too big now. It's too much going on. You need that. Well,
on that note, Coach Pettaway, safe travels, and
thank you.
We'll talk with you next weekend. Some big games, and we'll talk to Willa about his NFL team is not going to be in the Super Bowl. But Willa, I was pulling for him. Oh my! Well,
you can't put the ball on the ground and expect to win.
All right, let's go.
You know, Carlos, you brought up a good point. I talked with our coach about this the other night. You talk about rivalries. You know, if you go back to the old SWAC basketball schedule, these rivalry games were on a Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Alcorn Southern was on a Saturday. Southern Grambling was on a Saturday. Alcorn Jackson, I mean, it's always been on a Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
But that has changed. That has changed with this new scheduling model. You don't play everybody twice. And
Right.
Coach brought it up the other night. You know, there should be, for example, Alcorn and Valley. There should be no excuse why Alcorn and Valley should not play on a Saturday, whether it's in Itabena or in Lorman. So, I mean, you brought up a good point that that's been the one change in this scheduling that maybe should be looked at in terms of getting these rivalries back and maybe getting more people involved as far as SWAC basketball is concerned. Because those Saturday games, that's where your biggest turnout is, and you want those rivalry games as much as you can on a Saturday.
Yeah, that's the question I was going to. Carlos panel would love to get your thoughts on women basketball Thursday night games. Boy, if we just go by what we've seen so far, because Edwin, who usually joins us on the show, he was a little disappointed at the Southern Jackson State women's basketball game this past Thursday night. And Charles, I think you mentioned about talking to some coaches. It might be one and done for these Thursday night games.
Yes. For those who don't know, this is only a 1-year deal for right now. It has to be revoted on in the SWAC spring meetings in May or June, whenever it is. I think it's in May. It'll have to be revoted on. It has to go up the flagpole, coaches, ADs, senior women, all the way up for it to be incorporated for 2026. From what I'm being told, based on the temperature of the rooms that I've been in, it'll be tough for it to pass. I think we're probably, if I were to put some money on it, I would bet that we're going back to double headers in 2026. I think that's just the way it's leaning. Not saying it's definite. I know some people will love to see SWAC women's basketball have their own, and they are. But as far as SWAC is concerned, it's just not getting the momentum. So, I mean, I saw it the other night. It was a decent crowd at Grambling, but I just think just from the fans' perspective, you got fans that have to attend these games Thursday, Saturday, Monday. I'm hearing fans talk about it. It's a lot to deal with. And I just think from an operations perspective, on campus security, everything, it's all unique and different and new. And I don't know if it's going to have momentum going forward for 2026.
Wheeler?
Yeah, the model just doesn't fit financially more so than anything else. You know, you're dividing resources, and you know, when the women have their own game like that, you know, you got to pay separate security folk, you got to pay separate janitor folk, and you know, all that sort of thing. So the expenses for a lot of the lower level schools, you know, if you don't have that relationship, you know, with your physical plant and all that sort of thing, if you're at one of those campuses where they're charging you to cut the grass, you know, then it's not going to be a good thing for you, you know, in terms of your particular school. So it was always an individual case-by-case type thing, even though, you know, they tried to make it an all-encompassing type thing, conference-wide. But, I mean, some schools are going to draw well. Other schools can't draw flies. That's not going to change. You know, and so, you know, you just got to go with the model that fits you. And for us, you know, for the SWAC, for the MEAC, that sort of thing, the doubleheader model fits better. You know, it works pretty much. It works better all the way around, financially, crowd-wise, otherwise.
So trial and error, basically.
But you gave it a shot. You gave it a shot. So nobody can say, well, you know, we were insensitive to the needs of, you know, women's basketball or what have you. You know, you gave it a shot. You stuck it out there to see if it could, you know, see if it could live on its own. You know, while somebody will say the sample size isn't enough, I think, you know, one full season is more than enough in terms of being able to tell whether or not this model is going to work for you.
And, you know, and you remember in years past we had a discussion, just change the day, doubleheader Thursday and doubleheader Saturday. It kind of, the conversation kind of went up against the wind on that as well. Saturday and Monday, it's traditionally been the doubleheaders, both women and men's. But I remember a few years back, it was this discussion about Thursday and Saturday. Never got official, Charles. It was just just the discourse back and forward. So it'll be interesting to see. One and done. Will it be one and done?
Yeah, if I had to bet right now, and no disrespect to the women's game, because I love it. I love SWAC women's basketball, and I understand the rationale for wanting to do it. On the heels of Angel Reese and all that, and having their own day, all that, that's fine. No problems. I'm not against that at all. But does that work for the SWAC? Having these Thursday, Saturday games, and then Monday. The men didn't change. The men still play on Saturday, Monday. That it's just a Thursday, Saturday, and then fans are going to go Thursday, Saturday, then Monday. I was talking to alum the other day. They said, "Man, I can't do all three. You got a home game Thursday, Saturday, and then Monday. I'll probably do Saturday. I might do Thursday. I might do Monday. Saturday, count me in." And so I think that's a discussion. And as Wheeler said, and I'm living it because I'm a part of our operations team on campus. Talk about chief of security, man. It's a stretch. It's a stretch. And I mean, his eyes just like, man, you could just tell he's just kind of stretched out, with everything. Campus still is going on. And so things are happening on campus, and you got to mix that in. So we'll see. I mean, stranger things have happened. There might be some lobbying behind the scenes once the spring meetings roll around, but it has to be revoted on for 2026. And so we'll see what happens. But right now, it's not getting a lot of traction right now.
But what is getting traction is some competitive games, both on the women's and men's side. At this point, you can lose a game and it can technically kind of push you down.
Yeah.
And so for Texas Southern women, undefeated, I think there's some sense of pressure on them. They may not admit it. But Southern men, same thing. It's don't get me wrong. It's better to be trending upwards or at the top than have to fight your way coming back from the bottom. And if you're middle of the race, you still have a chance to go forward, build up, get a better place, and you also can go backwards. So this race will come down to on both sides. I think it'll come down to the last conference date.
Well, on the men's side, Carlos, I'm looking at the standings. There's 3 games that separate the 1 seed from the 7th seed. So there's some jockeying still left to go, with that. And Southern's rolling right now, and we kind of talked about it. Alcorn's used to being this matchup 2 years ago was for first place in the conference. And so for the Braves to have 3 losses at this point is kind of unusual, even though with a new roster, new staff, and all that, it's kind of rebuild a little bit. So we're in a different position. I think we're in a better position because the pressure of trying to get it done in the SWAC tournament, when you're the top dog, and we hadn't been able to do that. But I think we can make it interesting, with the win. But there's on the women's side, I mean, I think you have to look at Texas Southern. I mean, they're the top clearly. Burnett Skeet's never been in this position. I talked to her after the game a couple weeks ago, and she's just taking it one day at a time. I mean, because this was not expected. But I think she has a kind of team that's just, you don't feel the tension with them. They just kind of playing ball and taking it day by day. And I think if you take that approach, I think it's fine. Now, if you get caught up in reading the social media headlines and your timeline and people thinking you're all that in a bag of chips and the dip too, then that's when you get tripped up. So I think Coach Skeet's handling it well, and we'll see if Texas Southern continues that. But Southern's right on their heels. I think you were out when we talked about it. Coach Funches has won the tournament when nobody thought he would beat Jackson State. I think the pressure, I think Coach Funches can handle that because his team's kind of been in that position. He's been there. But for Texas Southern, clearly it's a little bit different. But don't count on Jackson State either. I mean, they got tripped up the other night, but Coach Richards can get her team right back on track.
And I agree. And the games today, Saturday, I expect Alcorn to throw its best punch. I know they're off to, they didn't get off to the start that they wanted to, but traditionally, they've always played Southern tough, no matter if it's in Lorman or Baton Rouge. So I expect a tough fight this afternoon. On the women's side, even when Coach Pugh was at Southern, I've seen some Alcorn teams come in, and Southern had the better record, and they left F.J. Clark Activity Center with the win. So I expect Alcorn's best punch on the women's side. I expect two games that'll be tough. You want to win regardless, Wheeler, but Alcorn State geographically the closest, even closer than Grambling State to Southern University. So I expect their best.
A lot of teams are just a 2-game skid from maybe, like Charles was saying, dropping down from 1st to 5th or 6th or what have you. So it's about that squad that's got it all together, and that's going to keep the pedal to the metal and get it and continue to get after it.
Yeah.
Well, wait, Carlos. Here's another point too. You talk about the scheduling, and even Kilbert brought this up. You talked about geographically, and there should be no reason why we're only playing Southern one time. We're only playing Southern once. We're only playing Grambling once. Grambling's 2.5 hours from our campus. It's not that far from here to Grambling. We should be playing them twice. And however way that fell, and I was told there's not going to be any adjustments to that either. It's not in the short-term scheduling. So, I would like to see that. If there's something I would like to see, and when I get a chance to talk to the commissioner, maybe he can expound on it a little bit more. But these close matchups, play them twice. I think it makes sense.
Well, I know Southern and Texas Southern and Prairie View will get it on again.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, I wonder if FAMU, I guess I have to look ahead on the schedule. Will Southern play FAMU and Bethune-Cookman again like they did last year, or are they rotating every other year? I'm not sure.
And Charles, I think it's a quest to have all of the schools kind of going through the same things geographically. And while it's easier for you guys to play such and such team, that sort of thing, if they do that year in and year out, then they're slighting somebody in terms of a longer distance trip that they're going to have to do year in and year out, that sort of thing. So, if they mix and match it the way that they've been doing, and, I would imagine that Dr. McClellan contracts a scheduling company in terms of, them putting all the schools in the computer and coming up with the schedule, that sort of thing. That's probably how they're looking at it more so than let's get the close teams together, even though they're not, this, that, and the other, and all that sort of thing.
Go ahead, Charles. I'm going to pull up.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it in Alcorn's case. We play Florida A&M, Bethune-Cookman twice. We only play Alabama State and A&M once. We only play Grambling and Southern once. So there are 4 schools that you're only going to play one time. And so I would like to see it rotated around, but I was told that's not, at least in the short term. I don't think that's not going to happen. I was told it's going to be pretty much the way it's going to be for the long haul of this. But I think it makes it a little, you talk about crowds and attendance. I think it does make it a little more appealing when you're playing your schools close by. But I think what Wheeler said is true too. Someone's going to get short if you do it like that. If you play it to everyone's appeal, close proximity and all of that, then some teams going to get shorted and going to get ticked off about it. So I think you probably have a little bit of equilibrium. You're not going to get everything you want in the deal. So the ones that you play once, okay, you're going to have to just live with that. And I think that's where we are. But just as a fan, I would just like to see us play Southern twice. I would like to see Grambling twice. Carlos, I'm sure you probably feel the same. You would love to see Alcorn twice because those matchups are just so appealing. This would not be a first place matchup, but, we kind of struggled a little bit. And you talked about it, Carlos. We're going to bring our hard hat. We're going to bring our hard hat to win this game. Southern's tough defensively. They're tough. They're really good defensively. We're going to have to bring it in the post. They throw a lot of bodies at you. They have the depth, as you talked about. and we have some depth too. But we're gonna have to bring it if we're gonna win this game and be in position to be near the top of the standings. So if we don't, we're gonna be probably middle of the road in terms of record. I'm not saying we're a middle of the road team, but if we're gonna be near the top, which we've used to being, we're going to have to win this game today.
Yeah, Charles. I'm looking at Southern's schedule just as I thought. They return back to Bethune and FAMU. Now, you think FAMU should have one of their better crowds because they got trounced 91-57. You don't think, well, they'll be thinking about that? Bethune is tough. EA says they're a scary team come tournament time. So Southern University is just, they basically did what they were supposed to do. But the race is not over with.
No.
So next week they'll be in the Alabamas. Then they've got to go back to Grambling return game. Texas Southern and Prairie View comes to the FG Clark Activity Center. I said I wasn't going to talk about that too much at the beginning of the season. So, no, the race is won by the swiftest. And so far, we can't say this about on the women's side, Texas Southern. They're perfect. They've been consistent. On the men's side, Southern has been consistent. They're perfect so far, but there's still a lot of basketball left to be played.
And one thing we haven't talked about on the men's side, Carlos, is Texas Southern. We hadn't talked about TSU in 2 hours. You can never count out Johnny Jones, the plug and play coach. His system is what it is, and he just gets the pieces to fit the system. And so you cannot discount a veteran coach that's won championships in Johnny Jones. So I regret that I didn't bring it up before now, but don't count out TSU in this thing either.
One game behind Southern. And what happened? Southern gave them their only loss. They've been playing hot. But, Carlos, this is what has consistently held HBCU basketball back and company higher ups. This is flat out ridiculous scheduling and business handling for making money. And I guess he's talking about the scheduling. And, and I think as I look at a football season, after every season, the coaches have an exit information meetings, and then look what you've done well, what needs to be improved on. I think it should be the same way in the conference. At the end of this season, in your meetings, you try to put forward the best plan going forward. Wheeler, you've been privy to some of those meetings. We got less than 3 minutes left, but quickly, Wheeler, is it something to it like you try to get the best plans laid out? You're
gonna fight for what's important to you and your institution, and more importantly, you want to hope that some of the other schools are fighting for the same thing. If you're the only voice in there that's advocating for this, that, and the other, then a lot of times you're going to go unheard. And but it's the meeting before the meeting takes place that is the most important. You got to line up your ducks in a row. You got to call the other ADs, that sort of thing. Look, I'm putting forward this motion, that motion. Tell me what you guys think. Can I count on your support? That sort of thing. And then that should be able to let you know whether or not you're going to be beating a dead horse, or you're just going to go ahead and, you're going to put it out there and see what happens anyway. So a lot of times, like I said, before the meeting starts, before the meeting is where the decision is made. And by the time the meeting's held, the decision's already been made. So
it's called lobbying.
Yeah.
That's what I would call it. Charles, closing comments.
Should be a good one this Saturday. I'm getting ready to head to the Felton G. Clark Center. Carlos, I'll see you there, and let's have some good SWAC basketball on this Saturday.
Yes, sir. I'm looking forward to it. Want to thank everybody for tuning in. Once again, I apologize. I think it was on my end. I got to check my Wi-Fi connection. Something's going on. We appreciate everybody tuning in. always sign up for the notifications, hit the like button, not only for this show, but all the shows on the Black College Sports Network, and also advertise with the Black College Sports Network. Charles, the motorcade is ready. The entourage is standing by. I'm headed up the interstate, I-10, 85 miles per hour. Oops.
I had a flashback from homecoming, Carlos. I had a flashback last night. I drove up on the hump and on the curb from homecoming. I had a flashback. I had a nightmare.
Don't do that, Charles. Everybody, peace and God bless. We'll see you next Saturday.